Welcome to another episode of Scouting for Growth, where we delve into the fascinating world of technology, finance, innovation, and technology transformation. I'm your host, Sabine VdL, and today we are joined by distinguished guest whose journey embodies a unique blend of technology, finance, and international influence. Kamran Hedjri is a CEO, a chairman, an advisory board member, and an entrepreneur in FinTech and Payment, who originally came from Iran, traversed through the United Kingdom for studies, and made a home in Austria. His career has been a fascinating journey of integration and diversification, combining the strength of two companies to widen their vertical approach in the global financial industry. Today, Kamran leads the team at PXP Financial, a pioneering force in the payment space with 50 years of combined experience. PXP Financial, born from the spin-off of a gaming company and a renowned retail brand, boasts a rich history and an ambitious trajectory. The company's ethos, payment is just the start, captures its innovative spirit perfectly. PXP Financial's primary goal is to stay ahead of the game by harnessing new technologies and crafting groundbreaking solutions. PXP Financial is recognized as a leading payment provider today, actually. They aim to provide a seamless and first-class payment experience for their customers, all while maintaining a commitment to operational excellence and best-in-class service. They also provide a suite of value-added services, tokenization, dynamic currency conversion, investment. What I mean by that is installment and recurring payment investments, so building new technology across multiple channels. As we explore the future of finance, payments, and digitalization in today's episode, Kamran will share insight on PXP Financial's journey, its unique approach to the gaming and card processing sector, which is crucial today as we are becoming much more cross-border players, and his vision for the industry's future. We'll dive deep into how PXP Financial tackles the challenges of the current market, the opportunities it presents, and how they aim to ensure continuous digital transformation. So, whether you are a tech enthusiast, a financial professional, an investor evaluating the future of fintech, or someone intrigued by the blend of this world, this episode promises to be a fascinating one. Stay tuned as we journey into the captivating world of finance and technology with Kamran. Welcome, Kamran. Hi, Kamran. Thank you so much for joining me on Scouting for Growth.
Thank you very much for inviting me to the podcast.
So, Kamran, I'm really curious to learn a little bit more about you and what got you into the payment processing market. So if you can give us a bit of introduction about Kamran, your journey, your life, I guess, but also why payment?
Yeah. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm Kamran, 56 years old, started my journey in payments in 1994. I've got two girls, two daughters, 28 and 25, and a family, and the journey back many years ago happened to me, right? Basically, it was not something that I said, oh, I want to go to the payment, that's where I want to be. But, you know, it was something that happened, right? I was working in IT and programming, and I studied at the Technical University of Vienna. I was in a couple of startups, and then back then Europay, slash Mastercard, there was an opportunity, and I had some friends there. They said, they're doing cool stuff here, and there is a lot happening. Just why don't you join us? And it was the best 6 years of my career for learning, because I had the opportunity to be exposed to many different side of the payments, right? It was the start of the e-commerce, so I was quite involved in the early stages of that. We did a lot of new and cool technology back then on the chip, and storing value on the chip. There was a project called Quake. There was a lot about credit card authorization and doing those kind of things, risk management side of it. All those different various projects back many years ago, before even the 3D Secure was there. There was a predecessor there. So we started all those fun stuff, and we worked night and day, but it was a very good opportunity to learn all these different approaches, right? And that helped me also in the later stages, as I started at the technology side and programming, and then worked my way through being a project manager, product manager, and all those things. So I started from the so-called bits and bytes, right? Learning it up and understanding first the technology, and then I understood about commercial side and business models and different aspects of it.
So, Kamran, I'm hearing every day there's so much change happening in finance and payment. And, I'm in insurance. So, I done a little bit of fintech. And when I was in fintech, it's everything is about payment. So I just stuck to my industry, which is insurance, so that we can deal with trade, underwriting claims, and so on and so forth. But I would love for you to tell us, what are the most exciting trends in finance?
Yeah.
Why payment? Why payment is so exciting to understand? And to be honest, some of the top 5 trends I'm hearing, even in my industry, which is insurance, include cyber, payment, embedded finance, insurance, among others. So tell us.
So I think the most exciting things that everybody is using, and there's a buzzword around it, is AI, right? And all those fun things that happening. I see that there is a fireflies, right? Is there, right? And on that, so it's a cool stuff. That's one element of it. But there is a lot happening in that automation area, and using AI to automate those processes, and getting a better and a more smooth and a more intelligent way of actually dealing with these activities. And the AI is in multiple variations, but in our finance area, this is a very important part, right? And it can be actually used in a very clever way, in the customer service, in the whole interaction, in the way that we do the underwriting. Is similar to what the insurance does. It's also for the finance is a very important thing, right? So that's the onboarding and KYC and all those process to get to a point that you can actually assess a customer from that perspective. And for me, this is one of the key areas, but also the fact that we are actually moving into an environment that it is global, right? And for me, in the finance side, one of the things that is happening, and for me is a key area, is the cross-border, right? The cross-border payments. If you're local and domestic, everything is fine. The moment the borders are open and you need to do a cross-border payments, there is another element of cost and complexity, and not understanding the requirements from the source of the funds, sending it out, the destination, what are the key requirements there. And this thing is not quite solved. So there is a good trend around that. How do we deal with the cross payment, aspect of payments and processing in this global world that we live? And it is getting more and more important, because now you've got the BRICS, coming together. They're defining it from their perspective, and from perspective how those two worlds can come together and interact. And one of the things that also quite excite me, and this afternoon we were debating about the regulatory environment changes, right? If you think about it, in Europe, that you're going to have the Payment Service Directive, right? The changes, the PSD3. There is another regulatory environment around the digital assets. It's MICA, and then those coming together and defining it. What are the opportunities for us to come there? And, from the regulatory perspective, how are we going to deal with that, right? And the word CBDC is a big word, digital, right? Euro, and how that is going to manifest in our life over the next 2 to 3, 4 years, and how do we actually deal with this new way of payment, or the transactions, as you call it, right? And for me is this, we called it omni-channel, multi-channel, but this merger, that you all the interaction of your transaction for the things that you do, doesn't matter where you are, you're in store, or you're e-commerce, or you're sitting in a taxi, or you're moving. How does that going to actually reflect and change, right? There's biometrics coming, the different way of payments, I don't know, the face pay, or whatever, with the different aspect of it, and identifying you as a key, payer, and then identifying that you're the one that was doing the payment, and interacting and making it seamless, and be more selective about it. And I think there are quite a few areas that is going to reflect and change our life in the way that it has never been as fast, as speedy, and this is going to be an exciting time, an exciting space for entrepreneurs, people in this space, to innovate and change the world as the regulatory environment. And I didn't even talk about the open banking and different channels that they're coming. The open banking is a topic, and it's coming there, and it's going to be even more in the embedded finance, and those things, that they're going to be more of very, very innovative products coming, working the fintechs coming together. They understand, they have the agility, they combine their work with the established banks, that they are good at risk management and data and what have you, and combining these two and coming a very much better and more innovative products for the consumers at the end of the day. So there is a lot coming in that direction.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we may actually touch upon open finance a little bit later during our conversation, because when we talk about data, artificial intelligence, we need to actually touch upon open finance and data. Yeah. And we actually experience the same issues in insurance, where we need access to customer data to produce and develop much more enticing products and services. And often we learn from fintech. But one thing you were saying about cross-border finance, I will tell you one of my personal experience is that I run two businesses, I have multiple bank accounts. And it's fascinating what you're talking about to me, because with some of my bank accounts, I cannot pay my international supporter and contractors. I have to actually apply to different banking system to actually pay those people, because not all banks, as you said, local, international, do not work. So I had to learn the hard way that actually I need multiple banks for different businesses to actually fulfill the needs of my work every single day.
Yeah, I understand, and I share your pain, right? So I understand the pain points, right? Because now we are working in an environment, we are coming away from, having one relation with one bank, right? For one, you get the salary and you deal with that and your business. Now it's actually international. You need to interact. There are all these neo banks in there. There are all different sort of, payments, and then you have got suppliers from different areas that you need to pay and interact, right? And you don't want to jump from one dashboard to the another and then try to understand it. And one of the good things about this open finance and the open banking and all those things is the APIs are getting more and more streamlined, and you can access that. So it gives the fintech companies to build that that dashboard and that intelligent dashboard that you get one view on your environment, right? Why should you, jump from one area to another? And then there are products coming in that direction, and they are there that is developing, and then you see more and more, and you have a layer of combining all the different aspects that you need, right? And ultimately in my head is, it should be a drag and drop, right? So you just drag and drop it there, and then you say, I want to pay this, so this is the way that I'm going to deal with this kind of payments, and the intelligence should be there, right, at the front of you, and it should be more intuitive and more less complicated, less burden on the consumer, and more intuitive way of doing things as we go along.
I think we need also at some point, Kamran, to talk about cost, but let's leave that for a minute, because I want you to tell us about the origin of PXP Financial, and the merger of two diverse companies expanded your business approach and customer reach. So let's talk about the businesses, how you went about the mergers, and what do we think about and talk about today?
Yeah. So I think we back many years ago, 2014-15, right? So that's where we started to merge two businesses together, right? And one of them was for us e-commerce area and sectors like regulated gambling, and the other one was very much on the point of sale and in-store and retail and hospitality. So the two things that they came together. And if I understood your question correctly, is how did we actually merge the two environment, right? So basically, one layer is about the technology, right? The layer of the technology is a very important one, because you had to create a true omni-channel experience across, because you've got consumers, merchants that they have got in-store, and then that they have got a e-commerce present, and absolutely everybody has got that, right? So but they want to create as close as possible experience, right, for those. They want to be able to identify consumers that they were e-commerce, and they approaching the in-store transactions. So that needs to be unified. So there was a lot of work and challenge in getting that layer in a correct way. But there was also cultural differences, right? Yeah, a typical, hardcore in-store versus a more modern and an e-commerce approach. How do we actually create a culture that fit the whole environment, right? And that was another one, and it took us a few years to get a unified way of approaching and understanding the different sectors. But at the end of the day, there are differences between the verticals and the different approaches that you need to apply. And you should not try to unify it too much, right? You need to have the specifics for each sector, right? And add your special nuances for all of those sectors, so that they can actually interact in the language that those sectors understand. And retail has a different language to a very much regulated gambling company, right? Or a different one on the ticketing side. So you have to have that speciality on top, that you can have the language and communication to those customers. So those three layers were very important for us to build. And I think the journey is always ongoing, and you're always learning and building the new technology, adapting it, building new areas into that. But I think we've done a good job of creating a unified way of approaching across, but not losing our specifics for various verticals that we are dealing with.
So, Kamran, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a secret. So I was in Vegas last week for a major conference, and I was a speaker, and I was very fortunate to meet Ed Sheeran in the airport lounge.
Wow.
So I feel really, really proud of myself. And I did go to his concert when I landed in Vegas. But the reason why I'm going into that question is, you were actually involved in the gaming space, right? You have the gaming license holding in the United States. And I think it's very important to understand how gaming, because you just mentioned gaming is a really regulated industry, how that work into finance, and how did you, I guess, divide the businesses now to fulfill the need of your customers?
Yeah, I think the point you're addressing is a key point. We are actually offering gambling payment services in 25 states, right? And you need to have a special license or approved from the gaming regulator to be able to offer those services to the gambling industry. And one of the key points is it's different from state to state. So you need to understand the differences between the state by states and be able to deal with this complexity, right? And the reason we could do it quite well is that we were quite well prepared from Europe. In Europe, between 2005 and 6, there was a direction, a development that each and every country started to develop their own and bring out their own regulatory environments. France, Italy, Germany, UK, everybody had the different ones. And our systems back then had to adapt and accommodate for the different regulatory requirements from each of those different countries. And then when we hit US in 2013, that was the first interaction in New Jersey. That's where we launched it. That was the first regulated state, right? And then there was long time nothing until 2019. Then we started to go. Then we could actually bring back and apply all the knowledge and expertise that we gathered in Europe and say, okay, this is basically one state to the other, right? Is going to be, a same type of approach, and our systems were well prepared for this, accommodating for multi-regulated states and environments. And that's something that could help us a lot. So for us, from the technology perspective, we don't, differentiate between, applying and processing a transaction in a gambling space versus that a retail space. At the end, it is different, but there are segregated areas, right, from the databases or whatever, right? But at the end, the processing looks the same, right? And there is also in casino and there is an in store. This is there are analogies there, right? And that's it. But the complexity is you need to be on top of the regulatory changes, right? And having a 25 different regulatory environments, this is a complexity that not that many can do it well, and you need to be on top of it. Regulation is regulation, and there is no room of not being compliant to those regulations. So that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. And I believe, Cameron, you're in Europe, including the United Kingdom, North America, and South Africa, amongst other regions. So that means
absolutely, yeah,
you have to navigate a lot of
absolutely, yeah. It's the usual word, right? It's a global word, but it's a local payments word, and you need to understand the complexity and needs of the local markets, because it's not always cards, right? And you need to find the right mix of payment options that you need to do and offer your merchants, so that they can ultimately offer the consumers in order for them to be able to pay and consume the goods and services. So what we did is we looked at the cards, and then we integrated all the, we are a principal member of Visa and MasterCard. Then we said, okay, what are the key alternative payment options in the area, in the regions that you said, South Africa, Europe, UK, North America, Latin America? That's where we are active. Is that the consumers actually like? So we integrated more than 90 different alternative payment options into our platform. And that's the concept of interoperability and orchestration between all these different payment options. And then you have then to deal with still open banking, which is new thing, and then this is another channel, right? So that you need to add to that complexity. So you have got multiple options, payment options, multiple regulatory environments, right? And those challenges, to bring them under one umbrella, is the job of a company like PXP, in order to understand that complexity, to manage that complexity, and then offer it to the market, so that it looks simple and it looks compliant and it looks, in a way that people can use it without too much of a thinking, what's behind all that complexity. It's our job to simplify that complexity in a way that it can be used in a very easy and cost-efficient way.
So I think it's very important for us to actually understand how you have actually shaped that business model, Kamran, because when you think about PXP Financial, right, you have grown from gaming, but also the retail sector. So can you tell us how you combined those two parts seamlessly and how you're actually creating really cohesive business models by really, I think it's going into adjacency, right? You're in fintech, you're in finance, but you're in gaming and you're in retail as well, e-commerce. So how does everything plays to actually allow you to be super unique in the sectors you serve and the customer you deliver value for?
Yeah, I think one of the things is, gambling was quite advanced at the stage that the interaction with the consumers, and they had to understand it, and from that perspective that they had to think about cost. I've got the customers on my website, and then I need to convert that, right? So that gives you a lot of good knowledge and insight how you actually navigate the consumers through a checkout environment so that you can get the highest conversion. So this knowledge and expertise can be actually used on the retail side, and those areas that they are quite important. On the retail, if you think about it, it's a very, very big number of transactions. Like think about Black Fridays are coming, right? You have a lot of transactions. So there is a stability. How do I deal with a big number of transactions? And gambling was not that far that many years ago, and it starts to grow in the US, and there is a big growth. But those knowledge and expertise that you had in that area, you could have used it in the other area as the gambling was growing. How do I deal with a bit more number of transactions? How do I do that? So it helped us actually to get the strength of each of those verticals and use them across. Right, that gave us a unique capability of dealing with this complexity around different and be suitable for each of them and bring and add value in those. And I think as we go along, in the retail, the consumers need more and more payment options and in addition to the cards. So that was also another thing that we actually learned from the gambling space, because that's basically, there was a nature that they wanted to give as much payment options as possible, that we could use it across the multiple industry segments that we did, and that helped us.
That's incredible, because we talk often about the customer. We are in a customer-centric world, even though right now I think we are an investor-centric world. So how did you build your differentiation when you think at PXP? Because you already mentioned the customer being at the center of everything you do, and also understanding their wants and needs to actually understand how to structure your services, your processes, and actually the pricing structure. And so how do you face world competitors, right? Many of us may be using WorldPay, PayPal, among others. So how do you play in that world?
I think the main differentiation with us is that we are not actually taking any side. We're agnostic, right? So what we do is look at the customer, which is a merchant for us, and we have a consultative approach, right? We are not forcing them in any direction. So we have got the best of the best, and we actually together come up with a solution that fits the purpose. And that's what they appreciate. We are not trying to push them in one direction, the product that we own or we operate. We try to have that agnostic, consultative approach, and that has been a very successful factor for us. And we listen carefully to the needs, and we integrate those needs and requirements into our roadmap. So we are not big enough to ignore our customers. We are really in a level that listens carefully and adapts to the needs and requirements of the customers. And it's not just a statement. There is multiple proofs, right, that we deal with this approach and deliver on that, right? And price is a big topic, right? At the end of the day, the scaling up and then scale, the bigger they are, you can actually, do a price, a price war and try to win, but we don't want to participate in that. We try to see where we can create value, added value. And I talked about the conversion. I talked about the added value services that we could offer. Actually, this is a holistic approach. What is the value of us for for our merchants, and then what can we do in total for them in order to be successful? And additional conversion of 1 to 2% on the checkout, there is a huge value on that. Making sure that the fraud rates are below a certain level is a big advantage, right? And dealing with that, having a stable and very responsive approach to their needs and requirements and adapt to them so that they can actually enter the market in a quick and agile way. That's an advantage for them, right? So those things are the things that we embed in our way, right, and in our communication and in our culture, and that has made us successful, winning customers and being competitive on this market.
So you mentioned the word fraud, and I just wanted to ask you a few questions on that really topic, because that topic is not only important in finance, it's actually really important in insurance as well, e-commerce and across industry. Is fraud increasing? How do we monitor and manage it? What would be your top tip when you look at payments processing and being aware of the fraud risk? Because when I travel, there's not one single time where my card is not going to be, one of my cards is not going to be stuffed because of potential fraud, even though it's me. And I respect the bank to protect us, but sometimes it's so overwhelming that it just becomes, I would say, is that the truth or an impediment to being human? If I could say though, so
yeah, I understand. No, and I'm with you. Personally, we feel it, right? When we travel, the moment we are somewhere in a new environment, our bank doesn't recognize us, right, or whatever, the transaction behavior has changed. But those things that are the part of dealing with it. I think there are a couple of layers to this, right? So we got the technology and fraud tools and all those things. They are required, and then they are actually part of the whole environment that we need to deal with and have that in systems. And they are basics, right? They are more and more obviously add-ons and using AI technology and using a bigger data and environment so that they can be dealt with. But also regulation is also helpful, right? A lot of that payment service directive, right, is coming with a strong customer authentication. All those things that are there is also for us to be protected, right? It's a consumer protection, is a lot of that's coming. So it's basically one of those things that helps us actually to work and make sure that we are in a safer environment. So the regulators are actually looking after that, and I think this is not something that we can eliminate fully, right? I'm definitely I'm not never going to say it's going to be done, but it's going to get better. The more data is there, the more interaction, the more AI technology is deployed, the more that we interact, and then the more regulatory environments understand and protect it. But it's a battle, right? So they get better, we get better, and then there is something that will come at some point that we need to do. But the development have been good, right? And I see there is a lot of good stuff that happened, but we haven't managed to eliminate fraud. Just on the contrary, we have got that problem, and it's a continuous battle to be continued. Yeah.
We're always going to have good actors, and we are going to have bad actors, right?
Absolutely. People want to abuse the system, right, and get benefit out of the criminal activities, and we are all there, and my personal experience as a consumer has been always good. as always, from the regulatory perspective, have been always protected, and then I could somehow be kept out of harm, right? And that's good. But it's not always the case, and unfortunately, there's a lot of work still needed to be done. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was thinking, Kamran, looking ahead.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to tell us what are the opportunities you see for PXP Financial
Yeah.
in the digitalization and transformation space and payment overall, the payment overall industry.
Yeah.
But I would also, for you, so I'm asking you two questions: opportunities and where should the market go? What are the trends we just need to pay attention for 2024?
Yeah. I think I start from the space that PXP is looking at, right? I think for us is I address the cross border. I think this is a key area, yeah, and that's something that we can play a good role because of our geographical availability in those markets, right? That's something that we understand well. So that I see, the cross border is something that is coming, and we would like us to be positioned in that direction, right? And how to go there. And the other one is I do love the concept of open banking, right? And that topic is something also close to our heart. And the open banking is predominantly now in the e-commerce space, but that needs to come also in store. So for us, how do we actually, increase that reach and then apply it across the different channels is something that would be an interesting challenge to have. And that's something that we are thinking about and working on. And basically for us, is what are the added value services that we can bring in addition to the payment processing. It doesn't have to necessarily be, what can we do on the data side, right? We didn't talk about it with data and insight. What could we actually come and provide our merchants on the data analysis and our understanding of the data and provide them with insights that it's useful for their business. Because we see different trends across the retail, we see different space across gambling, right? And then what are the trends? What are the different areas that we could actually give as a insight to that sector, right? And that they can use it and utilize it in order to get better in the environment they're working. And for me, those are key. And in general, the market, I think, let's not forget about the CBDCs and the digital assets. And that's something, I think that's something that we need to deal with, right? And that's coming, right? I alluded to the fact that breaks are coming, and then there's an interoperability between their systems. So how do we actually deal with that? How do we actually be participating and creating still a global environment, right? I mean, all those discussions around that's also a key challenge and something that we need to think about, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think, and generally, right, the consumers want to actually forget about payments and just that be as seamless and easy as possible. How does that work, right? How does that get manifested in the different environments, right? And AI will play a role across all these different channels, right? And we will see multiple, applications of those into our world.
Kamran, as I look at the world we are entering, I can see all of us trying to build resilience. And so what we've learned from COVID is often you may have one business, but maybe you may be better to have 2 or 3 businesses, and maybe also to have gig opportunities. And with remote working as well, you can work anywhere in the world. So payment and cross-border payment becomes critical. Whether you are paid into, a digital bank like Revolut, Starling Bank, Stripe, so on and so forth. You need that understanding cross-border. You need to understand the cost as well. For example, brick and mortar banks still charge a fortune for cross-border payments, 3 to 4%. And so smart people like us are looking always for opportunity to pay fairly the processor, but also maximizing our returns on the deals we close, because we close these deals, we don't just want to pay tax on them, right? Currency tax on them. So one thing which has also come across my mind as you were talking, Kamran, is branded wallets. I'm working with few startups which are in the wallet environment. And you know, when I'm traveling, all my items are into my little wallet on my Apple Wallet, whether it's my cards or my boarding passes. Tell us, what is happening in the wallet space? You know, what can we foresee as we look at payment, and what you guys are doing at PXP Financial?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? The wallet, the digital wallet, is a big one. Before, a few years back, right? Who actually was using the Apple Wallet and the whole interaction? Now you've got Google Pay, Apple Pay, the Samsung Pay, and I think that's it's just basically is going that reach is going to get bigger and bigger, right? So that digital wallet is going. You had the Alipay back then, and then that was it. And now they start to really get globalized. In India, you have got your own version. You have got, in Brazil, there's coming these different directions. And PayPal anyway was a big one, right? And now the whole different wallets, the digital wallets are a concept. So we actually, what we did is basically also defined back many years ago. We had our own first predecessor of Revolut, right? With around 700,000 customers on it. And we developed some technology back then and some cool stuff. But now I think we're revisiting it and we think it's a white label wallet for those environments, for the bigger merchants is a topic, right? So you cannot just come and just say, this is that one wallet, that the digital wallet that you want to interact, but you could actually work with a white label digital wallet, and that's where we are focusing our energies, right? How can we actually provide a white label digital wallet for the bigger ecosystems, and that they can interact and then bring? So that actually brings some kind of a cost benefit, some element of stickiness for those customer base, and we can work with them.
That's super cool. So my last question, Kamran, what is your vision of the future?
I'm just having fun because there's so much happening here in this space, right? It's never been so exciting. I'm talked about the AI, so I'm just interacting all the time with that, with different tools. So it just gives me a lot of good stuff. I know there is a lot of topics around, the danger of the AI. I understand it. I accept it. But I don't want to lose the speed that we are, but we need to regulate it and understand it and make sure that it's not going to backfire on us. I think the digital environment that we're going with the CBDCs and central bank digital currencies and those digital euros and all what have you is coming is also going to be super cool and super exciting. The more I read about it, the more I interact. I can't wait that it comes to my environment, right? That will have it creates a good competitive areas that we can work together, right? And we just want to be more and more global, right? We have got good coverage for the PXP, but I would like to go across multiple areas and cover, because at the end of the day, it's one world, it's one area, and this cross border we touched upon, it needs to be as seamless as possible. So there's a lot of exciting things to be done, and we are happy that we are making a very small contribution to this whole world and making it a bit better.
I love that statement, Kamran. A small contribution to a world problem. And I love also the fact that you're playing with AI, I'm playing with AI, and actually the only way you can actually understand the constraints and where you don't like how it's playing is by actually playing with it, educating yourself, and always being the human in the loop to just make sure whatever comes out of it is what you expect. You also talked about regulation. Regulation is core. The regulation is key. It's going to affect financial services for the years to come. It's not going to go away. No. And being mindful of all the new regulations and how we treat customer fairly is going to be critical. And last but not least is we are living in a world which is cross-border. And so whether we are living in London, whether we are living in the United States, wherever we are living or wherever we want to work from for 1, 2, 3 months, we need cross-border transaction. We need to access money. We need to be digital. So Kamran, any last word of wisdom? And where can we find you?
In the airport. That's the best. We are located across multiple locations. So that's basically, and I think the last word, I think this is one of the things that I would like to give any entrepreneur, right? Don't be afraid of failing, right? Try to fail a lot, but early, and try to learn from them quickly and work harder. One of the mistakes that we do as entrepreneurs are working specifically in Europe is we are very much afraid of just failing and not being able to do it. But if we do it early enough, the damage is not big, right? And then we can actually adapt and make it better. And the next time we can work. And that's something that I think that was one of the biggest learnings that I had, right? And I was always trying to make everything work, but you cannot make everything work. You need to adapt and go to the situation. And don't forget your family. There is always a price to be paid, right? And I talked about it. There is a work-life balance. I know there is a word and it's used too much, but there is a work-life balance, right? Try to not become a workaholic, right? Try to have a life, right? And keep a balance, because any time that you lose with the family is never going to get it back. Try to keep a balance out of it.
Those are so wise words, Kamran, and I'm so respectful for those words of wisdom. And you know what? Who knows, when your podcast come out, which will be just in a couple of weeks, I believe 2 or 3 weeks, will be downloaded, 250,000 downloads, and we are top 50 podcasts. Actually, this week we are top 14 entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurs, get to know Kamran. If you have any questions around payment and future of payment, do reach out to Kamran. The details will be in the notes of the podcast. And remember, PXP Financial. Kamran, thank you so much for joining me today. Amazing conversation, and thank you so much for your insight. If you like this podcast, subscribe now, share with your friends, and if you enjoyed it, please give it a 5-star review. Also, if you want to cover any specific subject with me, contact me on Instagram under Sabine VdL Officials or LinkedIn under Sabine VdL. Thank you.